Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
The session has been introduced, and the discussants, the panelists, have also been introduced. But I would crave your indulgence that they be allowed, when I call upon them, to say one or two things about what they do beyond the introduction of their names, because they touch directly the end users. So we're looking at affordability, ease of doing business, and the reality of internet service provision in Nigeria. And we're going to take a critical look at the environment and the challenges that must be tackled for operators to deliver better quality services with wider coverage. I'll be moderating, so I will, we have, it's 12:30. We're supposed to discuss till 1 o'clock. So I'll give each of them 5 minutes to have the initial stab at the topic. Then from there, I'll raise one or two issues. We will discuss it. Then thereafter, we'll come to the floor and take your contributions, questions, and comments. I think with that, when we are done, I'll do a summary, and then the speakers can have the last words of the panelists, and then we can close the session. My plan is to close the session at exactly 5 minutes after 1, so that we're done. So, affordability, ease of doing business, and the reality of internet service provision in Nigeria. I want to start with our beautiful lady to go first on the topic. Edith.
Good afternoon, everyone. Reverend Sunday Folanyo is very partial. I used to be his staff, so that's why he's starting with me first. Okay, my name is Edith Udago, the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Internet Registration Association, NIRA, where we manage the infrastructure that hosts the .ng domain names, that is the .ngccTLD. We have an MOU with NIDA, which permits us to manage this natural resource for everyone. Well, you know, while all the other panels discussions were going on, I wanted to ask them, with all the millions of people who are on the internet, who have mobile phones, how come we only have less than 150,000 active domain names? It just doesn't make sense. It's the same internet, is the name, our online identity, the identity of Nigerians in cyberspace. And we're just talking about 150,000 active names with a population of over 200 people. So, 200 million people. So where is the problem? You know? Well, we've heard quite a lot that .ng domain names are expensive. But then we ask, expensive compared to what? You're comparing a CCTLD name, your own identity in cyberspace, to a generic name that belongs to someone else. And you are busy improving their own statistics, creating jobs out there. So why don't we register our own names? The more names we register, the cheaper it becomes, the more we improve on our infrastructure. So basically, the more names we register, the cheaper it will be to run the infrastructures that we have in place. We're using world-class application, world-class infrastructure at co-location centers. So all these things have their cost. We have high-quality staff. They all have their cost. So we need to patronize ours, that which is ours. And when we do so, we are quite sure that the prices will keep on reducing for the registration of domain names. Okay, and we talk about the ease of doing business. We try to accredit as many credible registrars as possible because they're the ones who register the domain names, they're the ones who interact with the end users. So by making sure that we have credible people out there and we can go to all the different political zones in this country, we hope to make sure that it will be easier for people to register their .ng domain names. And we've talked about quite a lot about collaborating with government establishments. For example, the CAC. As you register your business name, you will automatically be encouraged to register a .ng domain name so that you're online immediately. It makes it a lot easier and much more profitable for everyone. Even if you don't want to register at second level, you can register at the third level. But the most important thing is that we are trying to make sure that all facilities are as affordable and easily accessible to everyone that want to be online. I mean, we are so many people on all the other social media platforms, but why don't they be on .ng? There is even those are already with the GTLD names. There's a way you can do a redirect, so to make sure that you can be on .ng, and we do a lot of training in ERA, a lot of training to make sure. The operators complain about the cost of the infrastructure, our desire for foreign things rather than the local products. So these are part of these challenges, apart from the cost of infrastructure, the policies, inconsistent policies, not only from government, but some loopholes in the NERA policies, which makes it a bit difficult for them to actually operate the way they want to operate. But the fact still remains that you have to have guidelines, you have to have policies that will guide you on how you operate while you are in cyberspace. So you can't just go there and just use a name that you're not supposed to use and stuff like that. So was that okay within the time?
Yes, thank you very much for that initial stab. I'll want to give the floor to Ahmed. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here again. My name is Ahmed Atere from Mid Networks Nigeria Limited. Mid Networks basically is a network infrastructure company, and what we basically deal with is in building last mile network infrastructure ranging from schools, organizations, government agencies, oil and gas industry, and also focus a lot more on consulting and training. And over the past few years, I would say my company has built a large number of campus network across most of Nigerian universities and higher institutions. And same for some of the government agencies. And what we get to realize is this. There's a large gap between the internet resources needed in those campuses and what they are actually being provisioned for. In the sense that they just go along the way. There is no proper and initial plan. I'll give you a very case in point, which was one of the things I mentioned yesterday. To get internet to everyone, those people we are getting internet to also needs to be ready for it. A quick example is this. If you have got, maybe you have a new building, which has not been fully constructed right now in a particular campus, and you realize that even from the plan of those buildings, there is no plan for an ICT ducting system, whereas you have plan for electrical services. So right from the get-go, I believe, even from the customer's end, there should be a need for the acceptance of all these services. If that part is there, then we have solved a point. From that analysis, we can now move ahead and say we are ready to even take the bandwidth coming all the way from the service provider. And it goes on and on. I can give countless examples, even for oil and gas industry, a newly constructed building, a newly constructed roads, we don't still have this plan in place, which is why I say most of us in this room, we are also a stakeholder. I'll give you a quick example of what happened. Sometimes back, that was in 2009, in Cross River State. I was working for the government in providing fiber infrastructure for all the 65 MDAs in Cross River State, that's in Calabar. And MDAs basically means government ministries like Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, and the likes. And what we realized is that we actually have all these pieces connected. During our project, we also have some infrastructure project going on from the telcos. There's a road called Mursala Mohammed Highway, in which at that particular point in time, 3 of us were digging and putting infrastructure on that same road at the same time. And it was about December time, we had a joint meeting with the governor and all the stakeholders. And it was like, I'm going to have my carnival very soon. I need my roads being cleared. And this could have been avoided. And why I said that day was, sir, 2009, if we have a combined infrastructure owned by the state, it means that Telco A, either MTN or Glo, anyone, doesn't have to dig at the same time. We all have a centralized infrastructure which everybody's going to go into. And once that is in place, we have solved one level of connectivity within the place. It means that there is an ease of internet penetration to every of those agencies. And more importantly, again, for the new players coming on board, once they have taken off that infrastructure cost off them, then it's easy for them to play into. So that's one way we can easily do that, and that's one way that we can easily ensure internet penetration. By the time each and every one of us knows that we have to also get ourselves prepared for it, and infrastructure is ready for it, then we can move on in getting this into place.
Thank you very much for that very good stab. From the initial discussions of the two panelists, I have jotted out some points which I would want to throw back to them and ask them to pick and expatiate on. You are free to pick 1, 2, 3, or the 8 of them. But what I have listed from what both of you said is that patriotism is very important for ease of doing business. If you go to American embassy now, there is every chance that the ambassador is driving a Chevrolet. He's not going to be driving a Peugeot.
Yeah.
Neither will he be driving a Toyota. So patriotism is very, very important. If they have to airlift the Chevrolet from US to Nigeria, they will do that. So it's not about the cost. It's about the fact that it's an American car. The second one, which I noted, is a functional business plan. Most people, the businesses are dead on arrival because there is no plan. They just want to go into the business and make money like MTN without knowing that there's a need to plan. The third thing I wrote is business registration. How easy is it to register a business? How easy is it to get a permit to be an internet service provider, for example? And the fourth one is that regulation must be dynamic. There must be dynamic regulation. If the regulator is not dynamic, businesses will be frustrated. Let me take a stab at the banking industry this morning. The government said they want to go cashless. So we have a cashless policy. But you agree with me that it is more expensive to go cashless in Nigeria. So we are all going cash now. And the cashless policy is dead. So dynamic regulation. The next one is deferred taxes. If businesses must pay tax whether they are profitable or not, then they will die. And government will not be able to collect subsequent taxes. So deferred taxation is good to stimulate the growth of business. The seventh point I wrote is capacity building. It's not enough to buy a car if there's nobody to drive the car. You know, I once wanted to fly a Nigerian airline before they died. We were seated when they apologized that, sorry, our pilot has malaria today, so we are not flying. All right? It's an airline that has one pilot, one plane. Obviously, they would have a lot of downtime. And last but not the least is seamless government regulation. You have so many government agencies, they make conflicting policies. You don't know which to obey. We don't know which to ignore just for your business to survive. So with these 8 things on the table, I want you to pick any of them and help us expatiate so that we'll see how we can improve on the ease of doing the business in Nigeria with regards to internet service provision. So, Edith, you have the floor for another 5 minutes.
Okay. With respect to patriotism, I don't know if it's actually a fundamental problem in Nigeria or Africa, but I know in other countries they come out with this rule that says if you must register, if you must do a business in our terrain, you must use a domain name under our CCTLD. We tried to have an agreement with Kenya.ke, and we couldn't succeed. Basically, the idea was that any Nigerian registrar should be able to register .ke domain names. And somehow they stylishly pushed us aside. We got to find out later that there is a rule in Kenya that subsists that for you to do business in Kenya, you must have a registered presence in Kenya. And for you to be online, you must use a .ke. So even our own registrars who are doing business in Kenya are using .ke for their domain names. So why can't we, even if there's no government directive at the moment on it, why can't we make sure that those of us doing businesses in Nigeria, even the SMEs, the numerous number of SMEs, why don't we be patriotic and register our .ng domain names for our online presence? I know that there's a government directive to the MDAs, local governments, state and federal, that they must be on .gov.ng. Now, our MOU with NIDA on this permits us to give these .gov.ng domain names free to those government establishments. So they do register them, and these names never expire. But we need our businesses, our business people, to come on board with their .ng domain names. So I'm appealing that we should all be patriotic. In other countries, they are patriotic. It doesn't have to be a rule. It's what you do for your nation, what you do for yourself, okay? And then, like I mentioned earlier on, we're trying to see how we can partner with CAC, and we are trying to see how we can discuss with our NERA accredited registrars, such that every new business that is coming on, we get a .ng domain name free. It is still in the pipeline, so nobody should actually hold NERA to it yet. It's just an idea we're discussing with our registrars, such that as somebody goes to register a business name at CAC, the first year they get a .ng domain name, .com.ng domain name free, so that they can be online. And along that way, they will get a one-page website so that they can use that to start up their business, and equally get free hosting from our people who host. That's why we've been talking to a lot of local hosting companies, so that we can combine this, bundle this package for new businesses being registered in the country. It is still in the pipeline. It's a discussion. We have not concluded on it, but we hope to do so. And then capacity building. NERA Academy conducts trainings practically every month for those who want to attend. Website design, hosting, reseller programs, other technical programs, other soft skill programs, so that people can learn how to run their businesses and be online safe. And that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Amir?
Okay, thank you so much. I'll start from the capacity building part, and I want to just give a quick analogy. Yesterday, during our discussion about building scalable network in Nigeria, I mentioned that we have about 36,000, if we're just laying fiber optic cable to just local government, every local government in Nigeria, which is about 704 local governments, we estimated about 36,000 kilometers, which is just about 4,000 kilometers less the circumference of the entire heart. Then breaking that one down, it means that we need resources to actually maintain and sustain this infrastructure. In fact, to even build it, that is according to the Nigerian broadband plan, which is more like, which they have already licensed infracodes to actually build this around the country. So I asked ourselves, so if I'm going to be building 36,000 kilometers around the entire country, it means we need a lot of resources that are going to be employed in trying to deliver this project. Let's even go the normal way of we're doing direct digging. If we're talking about one man can do about, let's say, 5 to 10 meters per day, it means taking that numbers down, we need an approximately about almost 40,000 men to actually get this work done, right? In talking about that. And afterwards, we now need supervisors. And it means we need resource men who are going to even ensure this project is delivered correctly. How many of us, if I'm to do a recruitment in this room and say, I want people who are going to be on this project for the country, how many of us can say, yes, we want to volunteer? I'll probably count almost very less. What that also means is we need to also ourselves as individuals be able to contribute into this project going around the country. And one major way of doing that is equipping ourselves with the right level of knowledge so that when this actually happens, we're talking about over $800 million project, we are going to be involved in this. And that is an easy access of a business route to everyone present in this room. One other major way of also accessing, which is the second one I'm going to talk about, is about the access to funding and financial help from the federal government. Now, our federal government with the infrastructure project has been able to subsidize the amount, the cost, the CapEx cost of laying fiber optic cable to all these places, which is a very good one in trying to lower the same. Because yesterday, I actually met with two of our participants who mentioned to me that they're actually trying to take fiber through FTTH network to some estates in Lagos State. In fact, they mentioned about 8 of them. But do you know what they have to go through? They have the bandwidth to deliver there. But they, on their own, have to now build the internal infrastructure for all these estates. Imagine if in the regulation, they have said before the Lagos State can license any new estate being built in Lagos right now, it must conform with the ICT or with the network ducting infrastructure, such that you already have a way, ductway to go into the room. And remember, all the CapEx of building infrastructure is actually very, very cheap. In fact, you have about 25% less the cost of building when you're actually doing it afresh than having to be breaking walls. If that comes into play, so what that means is at every point in time, every estate finished being built from year 2019 November is already fully ready to actually accept any internet infrastructure. In that way, we can easily grow capacity with all the new ISPs coming on board. And that's low capex on them. And before we know it, it becomes a common knowledge that even everybody knows that with a recent federal government plan and also private coming into place, they have a way to go in. And it's going to give us an easy access for everyone to know that, yes, internet for everyone is actually coming into reality because the final capex case of last mile almost has been taken away because government has taken care of that in the regulatory policy. And what we find out again in interacting with even the government agencies, the schools, the telcos, they want this service. But when you tell them they have spent X amount of money and they have to do X more to actually have internet service, it becomes a huge problem on the government agency because they actually draw their budgets annually. And there's no one in there who has put that into a budget. So you have to be planning for another year to make this come into play. So if the proper regulation is there, and sensitization is there, and also new infrastructures, road, estates are all in conformity with this process, I believe it's going to be a lot easier for more ISPs to come in. It's also going to be a lot easier to take internet to everyone in our society.
All right, so thank you for that. We're not doing badly. I want to open the floor for people to participate. But let me say that we also must be careful so that we don't point any finger at any other person as not doing enough to make it happen. Because when we point one finger, 4 other fingers are pointing at ourselves in return. It would be good to know what are the things people are seeing out there, that we can attack and solve. Not throw our hands up in the air to say, oh, this is a problem, we can't do it. And I will explain why I'm saying this. When the GSM revolution started in Nigeria, a SIM card was going for how much? 50,000 naira. Yeah. Then it came down, and the handsets were going for how much? 100,000 naira. Then the SIM cards came down to 25,000 naira, then 12,000, then 6,000. I remembered a woman calling me one day to say, SF, I just bought a SIM card. I am now saving money to buy a handset. So she was progressive in where she is going. I think even if we recognize the fact that owning a handset is expensive, can't we get banks, for example, who can lease you a handset and then you pay back over 12 months? That would solve a problem instead of saying handsets are expensive. So I want interventions and suggestions that would aid doing business, getting these things done without resigning to faith because we think nothing can be done. So the floor is open for participation, and we'll do that for 8 minutes, and then we will go back to the panel and close the session. Participation from the floor. Yes, I see a hand there. Please introduce yourself and then go to the topic. We're discussing ease of doing business, reality of high internet service provision in Nigeria. That's the topic. Thank you, sir.
My name is Usman Sadiq from Goodiebag Technology. What I really want to talk about is about a domain name, the .ng domain name. So you say that people are not patronizing a .ng domain name. To my own perspective, as a web designer, many people run away from .ng domain name because it's expensive compared to other .com and others related stuff. So if you can try any way to reduce the cost of .ng domain name, many people patronize your service. So that is the little things I have to say to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So please, madam, note the fact that .ng domain name is too expensive, okay? And if it is brought down, many more people will patronize. Any other intervention? You know, life is sweet, oh. Or you don't agree with me?
I do agree with you.
Thank you. Yes, any other intervention? I see a hand there. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel. I'm from the University of Jos. For Mead Networks, regarding creating these networks, these are laying the cables. I just wanted to give an example of a German village back in 2014, I think it was. It was a very small village, about 640 people, but the geography of the place was spread out over about, I think, it was a large space. So they needed about 22 kilometers of fiber cables to get broadband access. And the networks, of course, it didn't make sense financially. So the people set up their own company. Everyone out of the 640 people contributed something, and they got enough to get a bank loan and lay out the cables themselves. And then the telecoms companies, of course, now were able to push the network to them. So is that sort of thing an option that we can have here? And since you've been in the business, what kind of regulatory problems would that face, or would there be any problem with getting the bandwidth in from the telecoms companies?
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Please note the question.
Okay, good.
So, you know, she noted the first question. So I want us to note all the questions, and then you can address them together. Is there any other intervention? There are two hands at the back. Let's start with the gentleman at the back. Please introduce yourself and your intervention.
Good afternoon. My name is Yusuf Abdelgadiu. The staff of Sahel Telecoms, which my boss has been talking since basically. The thing I have to comment on is on the fiber optics laying that he has been talking about. The thing I realized about fiber optics laying, specifically in Nigeria, is that almost everybody individually are laying fibers on their own to their destination. And this has made it kind of very, very expensive, technically. So anytime there's a form of development in the society, they tend to come and destroy the ones that have already been laid, which of course the cost of even getting to repair it is even more expensive at times than even the initial project deployment. Yeah. So the thing I want to really talk about is Now you're bringing up a suggestion, or not a suggestion, a proposal that has been on ground, which I believe is with the cooperation of NITSTAR, to run a fiber all through the whole 36 states in Nigeria. So will there be a form of kind of a duct that would be laid in a way that consistent development and erection of bridges and the likes of it would not affect it? Because this will go a long way affecting, bringing up downtimes and the likes of it too. So thank you.
Thank you very much. There was a hand in front also. Come forward. I like your intervention, sir. I always wonder why we all need to buy cars when we can have public trains and trams in Nigeria. So maybe it's not only in the IT space that we have the challenge. Next intervention.
Thank you very much. My name is Dayo Tokiti. I work with LBS. Really, I want to talk about briefly .ng domain name. We use .ng domain name, but I must say I do other services, and my first choice will not be .ng domain name. Why? Because on a normal day, when I do a search for domain name, .ng normally doesn't show up. That shows maybe the level of investment in terms of the awareness and even the pricing of when you do a search locally. I think if you've invested so much in publicity, that should be what should come up first.
Sorry, are you blaming .ng or Google? Who is your blame going to?
I'm talking to .ng.
Okay, but they are not the ones not showing up on Google.
I do my search.
Oh, in CAC.
I do my search for registering domain names.
Okay.
I can do it on Google, I can do it on Yahoo, I can do it on any platform.
Okay.
If .ng does not show up, it just shows that it's down the ladder. It should come as part of, by default in this locality, it should come up as one of the top domain names that I can subscribe to and register.
Okay.
Secondly, everybody knows who is, and I don't need anybody to remind me of who is. If you look at .ng's who is a very long name that I myself using .ng find it difficult to remember. I have to do a Google search to get to .ng to now find out what the who is. It is who is .something.something.ng, which at times makes it difficult. I think for us to use .ng, there must be simplicity. We should break it down in such a way that it's easy to access. And a lot of things comes to the basics. Other things will flow in from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that intervention. So I think we have enough things for our panelists to chew now. I was trying to deflect some of the things from you to Google.
Okay.
But the man said, no, it is you, it's not
fine.
Google.
It's fine.
You sure?
Of course.
Or should
it's
I
fine.
deflect to Yahoo?
Oh, no, at all.
All right, you have the floor, man.
All right, Mr. Dyer from LBS. It depends on what or which search engine you are using. Google has given us google.com.ng. I use it practically, God knows how many times in a day. And they've localized it. So if you're looking for .ng domain names and you're using Google search engine, definitely they'll be the first to come up. And another thing, the NERA, if you want to go to Whois, you just go to NERA website. There's an icon there. You click on it, and the Whois is there. And you can search for all the names you want to search for under Whois. You don't have to type the name in full. All you need to do is just go to NERA website, and then you will see Whois search engine, and then you can search for the names that you want to register, or you want to confirm whether they are registered or not. So, if you're doing business in Nigeria and you're using google.com.ng, definitely the .ng names will come up first in the search engine. That one is the certainty. And then you're talking about, you mentioned the pricing and then publicity. Part of the publicity is why I'm sitting here. Part of the publicity is why NERA goes to every possible IT or industry function, exhibits, invites the registrars to be part of NERA booths. If you go there behind, you see NERA with NERA registrars. We never go alone because NERA operates the 3R model. and does not do the registration. So we always encourage at least 3 registrars to come and sit in NERA's booth. And the industry has been so generous. They know we're trying to promote Nigerian online identity. So they don't even demand monetary values from us to come and do this exhibition. You ask the organizers of ngNOG, they will tell you the only thing we did was t-shirts. T-shirts. That is how the industry has been able to help in promoting the .ng online identity. Yeah, sorry, excuse me about that. Then in terms of pricing, we have a price charter which we operate. Basically, what that price charter says is that by the time you register this number of domain names at the second level, the price goes down. When I joined NERA 2014, the price of .ng domain name at second level was 15,000 naira to the end user. Now, to the end user, with some registrars, it's less than 9,000 naira, which means progressively we are reducing the price. But this depends on the uptake, because there are infrastructures to run. We don't really get the subvention we're supposed to get in carrying out this responsibility. So it is the income that comes from registration of the domain names that we use to run the infrastructure. We have a world-class registry solution. We're co-locating in some centers. We have redundancy. We have world-class staff who are managing the registry. So there are expenses, there are bills, but our aim, our goal is to reduce the cost of registering domain names. I mentioned earlier what we wanted to do or what we plan to do, which we have not firmed that completely. Part of it will be that for the first year, any new business that comes on, we get free .com.ng domain name, plus all other bundled services that go with it. So that's part